Hello. I'm doing this presentation on the Roman Catholic Church in colonial America. I'm partially doing it because I was Roman Catholic at one time in my youth, and I was real Roman Catholic. We said the Mass in Aramaic and Hebrew and Greek, and I didn't understand when I was growing up the history of the Roman Catholic Church, particularly the history of the Roman Catholic Church here in the Americas and especially in colonial times. So I did some research and I found out some really interesting things. Roman Catholic Church was hated by England. That can be traced all the way back to Henry VIII, where he wanted a divorce from Catherine of Aragon and the Pope denied it. And so he separated the entire country of England from the Catholic Church. And then King Edward VI helped Protestantism gain influence throughout the nation of England. England hated the Catholics, though, and part of that fanning of the flames was a book that was written by John Fox called the Book of the Martyrs, where it outlined where 300 Protestants were burned between 1555 and 1558. And then there was an incident called the Gunpowder Plot of 1605, where some Catholics got together in an attempt to blow up King James, and that failed. Also, France and England was predominantly Catholic, and they were the sworn enemies of England. France and Spain, I'm sorry. They were the sworn enemies of England. Here in the United States, there were no Catholics in the Massachusetts Bay Colony for the first 20 years. But even so, they initiated anti-priest laws, particularly in 1647. The foundations of America were English and Protestant, and American Catholics had a really rocky start when they got here. Of the original 13 colonies, in 1785, a census was taken, and they estimated that there were approximately 25,000 Catholics total in the colonies. Almost 16,000 of those resided in Maryland, about 7,000 were in Pennsylvania, and then another 1,500 resided in New York. And before and after the American Revolution, the Catholics actually had a spirit of tolerance towards the Protestants, trying to gain acceptance in society. The new colonies were trying to get away from that archaic and medieval positions that actually the Roman Catholic Church represented. However, Pope Leo took notice of it, and he wrote his Testum Benevolentiae in 1889, and he condemned the complacency with which the Catholics were giving the Protestants at the time. They were adopting a natural spirit, and he called it Americanism. So the compliance didn't help. Colonies would enact laws, edicts, and proclamations. Some of them were like test oaths to keep the Catholics out of office. Legislation that barred Catholics from entering certain professions, such as in the law profession. There were measures that had been enacted to make them incapable of inheriting or purchasing land throughout the colonies, and they were even subjected to penal measures for their practice of their faith. It was so bad that actually, and I quote, Samuel Adams in 1768 wrote this, I quote, "I did verily believe, as I do still, that much more is to be dreaded from the growth of popery in America than from the Stamp Act or any other act destructive of civil rights." So he was no big fan of the Catholics. The Duke of York in 1672, he converted to Catholicism, and he actually put in place an Irish-born Catholic colonel named Thomas Dungan as the governor of New York, and this didn't sit well with the Dutch or the English in New York. So a guy named Jacob Leisler, he was actually a very staunch anti-Catholic. He spread rumors of war with France, and he implied that the Catholics would align with the French. And so this brought increased hardship onto the Catholic population. 1700, they were prescribing perpetual imprisonment for prisoners. Forget posse comitatus. The Jesuits and Popish messengers were persecuted severely. New York actually framed its constitution in 1777 and denied Catholics full citizenship. So things didn't get any much better until a while after the Revolution, when more Catholics started coming over from Europe. But in the beginning of the colonial period, the Catholics had it pretty rough.